What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Week 14 college football betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host, Colin Wilson. It's the last full slate of the entire season. How did we get to this point? Luckily, we have a ton of college football left, starting with Conference Championship weekend next week. We'll be breaking down all of those games. But this is the last time we'll have a recap show. I mentioned this on our recap show last week. Last time to get in on the voicemails. Last time to yell at us this season. Last time to get in as potential caller of the year and make the final cut of the voicemails at the very end on our Gambling Heisman and Award show. 959 Bad Beat. Don't forget about that. We're recording this on Tuesday so that you guys can have this out wherever you listen by Wednesday, since I know a lot of you are traveling for Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. We are thankful for all of you for listening and sticking with us for another year. Show is nothing without all of you. I'm thankful to be able to sweat every weekend with all of you guys on Twitter and then hear about it on the voicemails and then get right back on the horse for the next week. Going on 8 years now. Colin and I have done this. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, 8 years. Crazy. So thankful for all of you. Hope anyone traveling has safe travels and enjoys the football and time with your family and or friends. And or if you're gonna be by yourself sweating, which I will be, because it's just a normal week for me. Football doesn't go anywhere. My wife will make me a duck, though. She makes a couple ducks. I get to have one for myself. So that'll be sweet. Have that on the couch. So Colin, how goes it? And got any plans for Thanksgiving?
I do. It's going great. Off of one of the best weekends I've had the entire season. So I hope I can keep the steam going. As far as Thanksgiving goes, I'm excited. This is always the time of year where Grammy and I, who's now 91, get to sit down and talk about, is this a bowl or is this not a bowl? It gets some of the most entertaining responses, but more importantly, this holiday season, I have two 18-year-olds. My oldest child is 18. So it's like all of this is kind of hitting me like empty nesting is right around the corner. Am I ever going to see my kids on holidays again? They could get girlfriends. It's just like it time is moving fast, not just for this podcast, but life in general in your late 30s and 40s just seems to fly.
It does. So we're gonna have a sort of a different format today. We're gonna run through. There's lots of rivalry games, lots of college football playoff implications. We'll go through five marquee games. There'll be trash as always, small trash card this week, and we're gonna do Thursday night lights. We'll talk about Memphis, Tulane. Give our favorite overdogs, underdogs. Colin will talk Arkansas, but we're gonna try to go through just as many games as possible, like 40 games, just rapid fire. Uh, to give you guys an idea of what we're thinking. Some we got to wait on injury reports. It's early in the week, so there's a bit more uncertainty than normal since we usually record this on Thursday. So make sure you're tuned in to the Action Network app. But let's get things started with the marquee games of the weekend. And by the way, it is of the opinion of the Action Network production staff. They wanted me to let all of you know that not playing the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving Day is an affront to college football and or God. But we'll get to the one Thanksgiving game in just a bit. But let's start with the big game between Michigan and Ohio State. Ohio State, with a win, can clinch a spot in the Big Ten Championship in Indianapolis, where they would face off in a rematch with Oregon. Michigan sitting around a 20 and a half to 21 point favorite. Under's taken some money down to 42 and a half. Obviously, a huge triple revenge game for Ohio State. I'm sure they want to bury Michigan. But, so I know that you like Ohio State. You're going to maybe try to convince me. I lean Ohio State's way. It's either Ohio State or nothing for me. I make the spread over 21. But where I struggle, and I actually like the under too. I don't really know how Michigan's going to score. But I'm afraid that Ohio State will try to run it up if they get the chance, just like they did against Indiana for I don't know why. And that ended up putting the game over. So that worries me a bit. But where I struggle to potentially lay it is I know Michigan is also going to show up and be motivated for this game. Can their defensive line dominate this game? That's what gives me pause. And this game's going to be super slow pace. Like Ohio State's not fast. Michigan's going to try to shorten the game at all costs. But with Ohio State's offensive line injuries, they couldn't run the ball last week. I mean, what did they average? Like 2.5 yards per carry if you remove one long run. So they couldn't run the ball. They're going to have to throw. Can Michigan's defensive line cause some havoc? Will Howard can struggle under pressure. And this game's just going to be a slow grind. Michigan does have a really good kicker who can make them from deep. In a slow game with a low total, that's what gives me pause. But it's Ohio State or nothing for me. You love the Buckeyes.
I love the Buckeyes. I've already bet the Buckeyes at 20 and a half. I'd bet them at 21. Not saying that I think that it's going to be an easy cover. I definitely think there could be a score in the fourth quarter that gets it over and maybe pisses a lot of people off with Michigan tickets. But I think if you want to break this down mathematically, am I supposed to believe this 50 burger that Michigan put up against a lifeless Northwestern team? They averaged 6.2 per carry. Donovan Edwards, Mulling, they all had a really good day. 34 attempts, 5 rushing TDs. They went 12 for 17 on third and fourth down conversions against Northwestern. So Michigan certainly had themselves a day. Maybe it's something that Sharon Moore needed, just because the season has not been up to expectation. So you have to ask, can Michigan's heavy inside zone, can that dominate against Ohio State's defensive line? I think the answer is no. Ohio State's 54% success rate against inside zone. We saw that. We had this exact same discussion against Indiana. They were just fine. They don't allow explosive plays whatsoever. And Ohio State dominates teams that use man concepts, which Michigan has been known to peel off and do. So I don't see an avenue for Michigan to get even close to do what they did offensively against Northwestern. There's no answer for Michigan against Ohio State against inside zone. The Wolverines are 42% success rate in defending inside zone on their defensive line. The Buckeyes are 64% success rate in running it. I know there's some issues on the offensive line, but we've kind of seen Will Howard have a coming out party. And whether we're dumping off into the flats or Will Howard becomes a bigger part of this offense, which he does in the biggest games, he runs more. I think Will Howard is going to have a couple of wrinkles in here that maybe Michigan hasn't seen. There are strong signals in the market that this thing's going under 44 down to 43. Personally, I make it 49. And I think this thing has gone over like every iteration of the last 10 seasons. I mean, this has been an over series all the way. And I think if you want to step back from the numbers, there are things percolating between this rivalry that makes me think if either team gets a lead, they're just going to keep piling it on. And now it might be Ohio State's turn. You could look at some comments that Ryan Day has made this week about how personal this game is. You can look at read into that a little bit and figure out there's been some negative recruiting against him by Michigan, and the Connor Stalions thing does not sit well with anybody at Ohio State. So I think if there is a chance to run this up, it's absolutely going to be ran up with no hesitation, even with the Big Ten championship next week. So I like Ohio State on the side. The only reason I haven't played the team total over is because it's Tuesday as we're recording this. Those don't usually come out till midweek. So another data point you might want to consider, either team total over or the Ohio State side.
All right, let's move on to the Iron Bowl between Auburn and Alabama. Alabama, an 11.5 point favorite, total 52.5. Alabama off that embarrassing loss at Oklahoma. Auburn coming off the thrilling win against Texas A&M in triple overtime. When I first looked at this game, I should say in four overtimes, I wanted to bet Auburn. I really wanted 14 because I feel like if I'm betting Auburn now, you're really like buying high and selling low on Alabama. And Alabama's not completely out of the college football playoff picture yet. They haven't, they're not a favorite to get there, but I know that they know that they need margin. So that's going to be important in like a lot of these games this weekend and in more games because there's an expanded college football playoff field. So Alabama is not going to take the foot off the gas if they have an opportunity to do so. So that's the question. Are they going to be able to build a big lead here? Some things worth noting because I think this is ultimately a pass for me. I mean, Auburn's defense is really good, but they were on the field for like 90 plus plays last week. Is there some fatigue there? On the other side, Alabama losing Lawson, their linebacker, their green dot, that you could see the effect of that last week. It was impactful. He's out for the year. I think that changes how they use Jihad Campbell. You get more Jefferson in there, who's now going to probably be the green dot. And I think the entire defense suffers in the pass rush in particular. But just given the spot, we've seen Alabama at their best look really good. They're just really inconsistent. This is probably a pass for me. I wish it wasn't. Um, put a gun to my head, I take Auburn, but I think this is probably in the proper range. Do you have a take here?
Yeah, I do like Auburn a lot. Haven't played it because why would I at a dead number? I'd rather take Auburn plus 11 instead of, hanging on a dead number hoping it goes back to 13, which I don't think it will. I believe there is a pattern in trying to figure out when to fade Alabama, but before we get to that, I think Auburn, when we get into off-season activities about what we do with power ratings, second order win total is the very first driver that moves a team's power rating. Auburn has 5 wins on the season. From a second order win total perspective, they should be 7.7. They are much better than their record. So the question is can Bama's defense stop Jarquez Hunter? The ground attack that's 8th in success rate and 15th in stuff. I don't think so. Bama's 111th in defensive stuff rate. They're 111th in defensive line yards. They are just not getting it done. And if you look at what Bama does, it's just a middling success rate against all the run concepts. Auburn's going to attack with inside zone and have a lot of success. Look at the emergence of freshman wideout Cam Coleman. I mean, he's busted out in the last 2 games. I know it's been ULM and Texas A&M. Nearly 40% of his targets have come in the last 2 games, and he's averaging more than 3 yards per route run. So there is some trending stuff for Auburn that says they're becoming multidimensional on offense, which is something we haven't seen. But the trend that I talked about, when do you fade Alabama? Did you know Jalen Milroe has tallied a grand total less than 30 rushing yards in their 3 losses? In their 3 losses, less than 30 rushing yards. So the whole thing is if you can contain him and you can keep him from running, now, whether it was injury before or whether it was really good defenses, it seems to be the formula. Well, look what Auburn's done against these quarterbacks. Marcel Reed had 9 scrambles for 47 yards. Diego Pavia, 15 attempts for 21 yards. And if you look at Michael Hawkins Jr. way back in week 5 with OU, if you take out a 48-yard busted play that he had for a scramble, if you take that out, he had 5 scrambles for 13 yards. Auburn has been fantastic at locking up mobile quarterbacks. Where do you stop playing it? I make the number 10. So I think it's really important when we podcast on Tuesday that we set a boundary on some of these numbers. So I would play 11 and a half. I'd play 11. I'd play 10 and a half. I would stop at 10 with Auburn.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's the handicap. That's why I'm so regretful I didn't play Alabama team total under in Oklahoma last week because Oklahoma all year has done a great job containing mobile quarterbacks, and they
Yep.
did so again last week. Let's stay in the SEC, and we got a big one in College Station. Texas at Texas A&M. Texas A&M wins. Their college football playoff hopes remain alive. Why? Because they go to the SEC championship game. Texas also, if they win, they go to the SEC championship game. I think after all the chaos, though, if Texas loses this game, they're still in, right? You agree with that?
Yes.
So a little bit more motivation for Texas A&M. This is a enormous rivalry, so I'm not kind of implying that Texas won't show up here. But Quinn Ewers is dealing with a bit of an ankle injury. He should be good to go, but it was bothering him a bit at the end
Mhm.
of last week's game against Kentucky. I like Texas A&M here. Played them +6. I make this like 3.5, and there's a lot of things that are working, a lot of ancillary factors that are working in Texas A&M's favor. Number one, special teams, advantage Texas A&M. Number two, the
Huge advantage.
crowd, huge
Huge.
advantage special teams. The crowd, I mean, this, as far as home field is concerned, this is as big as it gets. Like going up to where, I mean, there's not a lot of travel, but you're talking like 3-8, 3-9, close to 4 points of home field advantage here. I also think that and what could that lead to? Obviously, noise, communication issues, but there was a couple comments by Elko in his presser this week when he was asked about the lack of holding calls. Did you hear this?
Yeah. Yep.
So there hasn't been a holding call against a Texas A&M opponent in 28 quarters. 28 quarters. And they have a really good defensive line. They get held all the time.
Yeah.
So it was brought to the SEC's attention. Don't be surprised if there's a couple holding calls in this game that end up killing drives. That's not insignificant. So I think that the fact that that was brought up this week
It
could
it
end
hits
up.
it hit Sankey's desk, and Sankey had to have a little phone call. You know it.
Yep. And I mean, the SEC wouldn't be mad if Texas A&M won this game. I don't think. Um, but I also like this Texas team. I keep saying it. Are we sure they are elite elite? There are 6 teams that have a losing record in the SEC, and one team is at 500. Texas has played 5 of the 6 teams with a losing SEC record. They played Florida, who's 500 at home, with a Yale third string quarterback and lots of other starters out. And the one ranked team they played was Georgia, and they got blown out at home. So, like, their schedule has been extremely favorable. The offense is still just lacking something, just lacking juice overall. And I think Texas A&M can compete and potentially win in the trenches here. I think this line is a bit too high.
Mhm.
Give me the Aggies. Gig 'em. Do you agree?
Full agreement. Put it on the board. Whatever we got to do here on the podcast. Listen, I don't know. We've said this all year, and I've known that we're going to be on Texas A&M, and really, it's from a pure physicality standpoint, from what I see in the trenches. The best case scenario for Texas A&M is to get the Texas offense into passing downs. The question is can the Aggies prevent getting gashed on the ground? Because there are teams that have had success running straight up the gut, avoiding those edges, and been able to get some traction, moving chains, and getting Texas A&M off balance and staying in standard downs. The worst place you can ever be against Texas A&M's defense is in passing downs, because Nick Skirton's going to come for you, Shamar Stewart's going to come for you. And when you look at Texas, they have no advantages in line yards and stuff rate offensively at all. Heavy tendency to outside zone. There's some power in there with Contravia and Wisner, Jaden Blue, but the Texas A&M defense, highest success rate defending is outside zone. They're 62% against it. Texas is going to have a really hard time running that. Edge Shamar Stewart, who I thought with Skirton was one of the best edge rushers in the nation. Well, it turns out he's one of the highest run defenders in all of PFF. So Nick Skirton really isn't too far behind. So you want to avoid the edges against Texas A&M, and that's what Texas runs. Texas doesn't really have inside zone that goes over the guards and the centers. That's a real problem. And then you look at Texas A&M from a defensive havoc standpoint, top 10, third in creating contested catches. I don't care if it's Arch. I don't care if it's Quinn. They're going to have a problem getting a clean window to throw to with their targets. It's an aggressive secondary that jumps routes. You kind of ask yourself, how is it that they are 55th in defensive pass EPA? And I'm talking about Texas A&M secondary. How is it they're outside the top 50 in giving up explosives, but they're third in creating contested catches? Because they're aggressive. They're hyper aggressive. They remind me of TCU 2 years ago. Like, they're going to jump routes. It could pay off. It could turn into a big play for Texas. I wouldn't be surprised for Texas to have a big play because of a jumped route. But at the same time, those are sporadic. It isn't consistent. Texas A&M should absolutely push around the Texas defensive front that is 46th in line yards. That Texas defensive line has been getting pushed around by opposing offensive lines. I This is Texas A&M all the way. I think there's too many points. I agree with you.
Yeah, and if you look like even just where is the wow games for Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Like against Arkansas, bit of a struggle. Against Vandy, win by 3. Florida, they had everything go their way. It was a great spot. You have a third string quarterback.
Third string corners.
Yeah, like it was just an ideal situation. But so like yeah, they get blown out by Georgia. I'm not sure that they're in that elite tier. And for what it's worth, SEC underdogs this year in conference play, 40, 17, and 1 against the spread. 70%, best of any conference over the past 5 years.
I bet
Absolutely insane.
I bet that's higher on games that are after 5 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, home field advantage in the SEC has been trending up too over the past couple of years. Probably random, but it's been pretty wild. South Carolina at Clemson. This is a big one. This is a potential play-in game because of all the chaos. The winner of this game is going to get serious consideration for a spot in the college football playoff. Clemson, 2.5 point favorite here, total 49.5. I can't do anything with this game yet. It's on Tuesday
Mhm.
because I need more clarity on Clemson's injuries. They have injuries on the defensive side of the ball that, you know, linebacker, I think Mickens will be a go, but um, most importantly on the offensive line. So their offensive line has been really banged up. They were without their entire left side of the offensive line recently. Dabo hinted they might get some guys back, but if their offensive line is not at full strength, the biggest mismatch in this game is the South Carolina defensive line versus the Clemson offensive line. I do think both teams can have some success running the ball. Clemson's rush defensive rush metrics are pretty underwhelming, but I don't think I could get to South Carolina plus. I wouldn't bet South Carolina plus 2.5
Mhm.
if both teams are at full strength. I mean, Clemson has a pretty damn good home field advantage as well. Just talked about Texas A&M. Now, granted, this game is noon kick, which does help South Carolina a bit. But if Clemson is not at full strength up front, I would consider Texas A&M. Definitely would consider them regardless at 3. But I need to watch the injuries here. What are you seeing in South Carolina, Clemson?
I lean South Carolina. I really want the over in this game. I'm expecting mass chaos in this game from a defensive standpoint. Both these teams, huge defensive havoc minded offensive lines that they can completely take advantage of. Starting with South Carolina, 13th in havoc, Clemson's 38th in havoc allowed. Clemson's just allowing too many tackles for loss. Too many defenses are getting in the backfield and creating havoc. They rank 41st in pass blocking. That's just not going to get it done for the Tigers. I think South Carolina can completely take advantage, if not pull off some turnovers, and then they're going to get great field position. I think there's absolutely going to be some takeaways here. The question is can the rush D stop Phil Maffa? I mean, we'll see. I mean, Clemson runs inside zone. They're about 58%. USC is about 51% defending. It's not like they're horrible against inside zone, but they're not elite by any measure. Where Clemson's going to have success is they do run a lot of counter, and South Carolina has fallen for counter all year. Like they
Oh,
over
they're so
pursue.
aggressive.
Yeah, they over
That's why
pursue.
their rush defense metric, their run defense is a bit vulnerable.
Yeah, I think opposing offensive coordinators are popping in the tape and like, oh, we're running a lot of counter this week because South Carolina's 44% success rate against it. When you go to the other side of the ball, Clemson is 7th in defensive havoc against the South Carolina offense. It's 124th in havoc allowed. I mean, the Gamecocks are 128th in tackles for loss allowed. They're nearly dead last in the nation in fumbles. You know who is the worst team in the nation in fumbles stuck? That'd be the Arkansas Razorbacks. So South Carolina, their offense, if they don't get that run game going, they just live on pass explosives from Lenora Sellers. I, I think there's avenues to quick field position and quick scores because of the defenses, which is why I like an over here stuck.
All right, let's go to the battle for the Golden Shillelagh. I don't know.
It's got to be
You
Shillelagh,
say
right?
Shillelagh, I say Shillelagh. We were uh arguing about this
Shout out to the
right before we
WWE fans out
started the show.
there.
Yeah, Colin says the
Yeah.
WWE is why he thinks it's Shillelagh.
Yep.
Why someone has a Golden Shillelagh.
Yeah, they come down and beat. I mean, the guy that swings it is the biggest guy out there, so I don't know why he's got a shillelagh. But anyway, for all of you that are into Sheamus and Butch and Pete and all that, go ahead and call in the voicemails and let us know how you properly pronounce shillelagh.
Yeah, well, this game is a big one. I don't think enough people are considering. We're obviously talking about Notre Dame USC. For those who, I'm just assuming everyone knows that the, Notre Dame USC is the battle for the Golden Shillelagh or Shillelagh. But we're talking about USC Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 7.5 point favorite as we record this, total 51.5. I like USC. Once this got over 7 to 7.5, that's all I needed. I make this closer to, I think, a 5.5, 6-ish. So getting over a touchdown was all I wanted. Part of me said, oh, please don't go to over a touchdown. But it did. And I have to play my number here. And this is a decent spot for USC. This is their Super Bowl. Their defense is playing better, as you would expect. They had some injuries, but they have one of the best defensive staffs in all of college football. They're trending up defensively. Now, one of the things that does worry me a bit, I think it's a small drop off from Miller Moss to Maeva, who took over at quarterback.
Mhm.
He just doesn't have great touch on some of his throws. He does give the offense a bit more versatility and is a better fit for Lincoln Riley with his ability to run, although I don't think they utilize that enough, him in the RPO game. But I don't think it's a drastic difference. Now, from a pure spot perspective, and back to what I was going to originally say, there's not enough people taking or considering that Notre Dame could lose this game and then they're out of the playoff. Like that, I don't hear anyone talking about that. Everyone just assumes that Notre Dame's in the playoff. If Notre
Right.
Dame loses this game, they're out, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're like they have a loss in NIU. You can survive that if you only have one loss with that schedule. I mean, their schedule is an absolute joke. And by the way, when was the last time Notre Dame played a road game? You know?
Off the top of my head, no.
Purdue, September 14th. That was their last road game. That's 2.5 months ago. It was their last road game. So now they're going across country, second straight game away from home, but they had a home game in Yankee Stadium. USC gets to stay home. So I think like from a travel perspective, it's also like the first time Notre Dame's on the road in 2.5 months. That works in USC's favor. And this Notre Dame team is good. They're taking care of business. I have to give their defense is playing really well. Riley Leonard has trended up, but I'm still not overwhelmed with the passing attack. And this team hasn't played a soul. I mean, since Texas A&M when they had Connor Wigman at quarterback in week one, since they lost to NIU, they played Purdue, Miami of Ohio. The best team they played was Louisville at home. They were outgained 395 to 280. Should have lost that game. They were laying 7.5 in that game at home. I have Louisville and USC power rated essentially equal. USC was catching 3.5 at home against Penn State. I have Penn State power rated higher than Notre Dame.
Mhm.
The inflation, and USC should have won that game, by the way. The inflation is just crazy. I mean, Notre Dame, since that Louisville game, they beat Stanford, Georgia, even the Georgia Tech game. And by the way, Georgia Tech was starting their third best quarterback in Zach Pyron. I mean, Georgia Tech had 350 yards. That game was way closer than 18. And then since it's service academies, Virginia, Florida State, like and Stanford. The resume is so bad. The quality of competition is so bad. We've seen that they can stop a triple option offense. I was wrong taking the over 2 touchdowns last week, but this is, I think this is just inflation. This line's too high. I'm siding with the Trojans and fight on, who have not lost at home to Notre Dame, a game that's played every year, by double digits since 2000. USC's defense is playing better. This is a step up in competition for Notre Dame. Fight on. I like USC. You joining me or are we going head to head?
I'm not joining you and I'm not backing Notre Dame, but I'm having a really ugh, the number's wrong. It should be five. Um,
This
you're
is
right.
inflation. Notre Dame's been killing
Yeah,
teams. Everyone wants to bet them. That's all it is.
you're spot on with the assessment of what USC was against Penn State, Penn State's power rating versus Notre Dame's power rating. You're spot on all of that. The problem is when I did a deep dive on this one. How do they stop Riley Leonard, Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love on the ground with inside zone and man and counter and everything else that Notre Dame runs? I can't find anything that USC does well against opposing rushing attacks to get that stopped. USC's defensive front is 77th and defensive line yards, 110th in stuff rate. Like, how do they stop Notre Dame from running the ball? And then you look over the other side and Jade Mava, it's like he finally had a good game against UCLA. No turnover worthy plays. He had three of them against Nebraska. The pressures have been insane. Like USC's 109th in pass blocking. Mava has seen 23 pressures in the last two games, and that can affect what his decision making and what he does. Um, I don't know. It's like the numbers inflated, but I can't make a case for USC's rush defense. Like Notre Dame looks elite on the ground. Now I know it's Army's defense. Uh, so I mean, it's only Tuesday. Maybe I'll join you, but USC is the side. I'm just having a hard time in the rush defense getting there with USC.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that Notre Dame's going to have success running the ball. Um, by the way, I will also mention, we already mentioned special teams. USC special teams advantage here. Uh, Notre Dame special teams are a mess.
Yes.
Now, it hasn't mattered because they're playing clowns every week, but what's going to end up costing them is they keep running out Mitch Jeter at kicker, and I think he's hurt. He's still hurt. Freeman says he's fine, but he doesn't look right, and he keeps missing kicks. But their special teams, besides what's his name, who's the kid? He's an absolute animal. He blocked the Army punt. He's great on special teams. Oh, Bryce Young.
Bryce
Yeah,
Young.
it's
That's
Bryce
right.
Young. His name's Bryce Young, same as the quarterback. Um, he's been great. But overall, their special teams have been a mess. USC has some juice on their special teams, so that could end up making a difference. But
A
I
little.
agree with you. I don't love the run defensive matchup here, but this is once it got over 7, I got to take it. All of the pressure on Notre Dame here too, and USC now bowl eligible can just play completely free. Spoiler, Lincoln Riley will have some tricks up his sleeve. Um, and yeah, I think we've just reached the very peak of the market on a Notre Dame team that hasn't played a soul since they were outplayed by Louisville at home a couple months ago when they were only laying 7.5. And I have USC and Louisville, same neighborhood. And this game's at USC. All right, let's get to the rundown. All right, we're gonna go conference by conference. We're gonna hit like 40 games. And we're gonna do them really quick. All right, let's start in the AAC. And if there's any I didn't list and you like any in that conference, feel free to chime in, Colin.
No.
AAC, UTSA, meet. We're riding with UTSA, or I am, I should say. I love UTSA here. 7 or better is fine against Army. Army beat up last week against Notre Dame. College football playoff hopes ruined. They have the Army Navy game. They have the AAC championship. They're already locked in to play Tulane. UTSA playing its best football of the season. That offense is rolling. And most importantly, their run defensive metrics are elite. Like really, really good. And that's all I need here. I think this line is inflated compared to where I make it. I mean, just to give you an idea of where UTSA is at, UTSA, what are they, number two in defensive rush success rate, number eight in EPA per rush. I mean, their run D is very, very good and can hold up here. And I'm not sure. We saw Army was just a schedule merchant. And I mean, you look at UTSA's stuff rate, line yards, they're all elite. Too many points, meet.
Yeah, yeah, you're right here. You can put it on the board. Agree. UTSA defense number one defensively in rushing success rate, fourth in defensive stuff rate. They're going to be able to handle this Army ground attack here. Plus, what's Army playing for? you know,
Yeah, their college football playoff hopes are done. Already in the AAC championship game.
Mhm.
And that
Nate.
UTSA offense is humming. All right, we'll get to Memphis Tulane in Thursday night lights later. Let's go to the ACC. I kind of lean NC State against UNC. Big rivalry game. Surprised they don't have like a thing that they play for or like a trophy. I think that they can slow down Hampton on the ground. Jones, their receiver, is questionable for UNC. I'm not a fan of Criswell, but this, in UNC, for what it's worth, NC State is playing for bowl eligibility. They're at 5-6. They've been so unlucky on the year. Like they have so many heartbreaking losses, including last week. They got a couple extra days of prep here too. Their offensive line has started to play better as the year has gone on. My one concern, and look, UNC, that they won those three straight games, but it was against Virginia, who had three backup offensive linemen, Wake Forest, and they weren't that impressive. They didn't even cover that game, and the corpse of Florida State. My one concern is Mac Brown. He was fired. He's going to coach his last game. Does the team rally around him?
Yep.
So it might be a stay away, but lean NC State. You got anything there?
Yeah, I think it should be North Carolina. I lean North Carolina. I power rate this closer to NC State +1 instead of what the number is. I lean to the under more. I think this is a game for Mac Brown, for the coach, for the guy that brought you there. NC State's havoc allowed is still near dead last. North Carolina's top 10 in creating contested catches, broken tackles allowed. Despite the poor defensive numbers, they can tackle in space and they can create a contested catch, which should be a problem for NC State. Plus, you go to the other side of the ball, North Carolina is not going to be stopped on the ground with Amari and Hampton. Like NC State has not shown any kind of rush defense. So I lean heels.
Yeah, I'm against you there, but not. I can't get there quite yet. NC State gives up some explosives on the ground, but they're going to down the down basements. They've been pretty good against the run lately.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Governor's Cup. Louisville at Kentucky. Kentucky rolling with Boley, the young kid at quarterback. Louisville 4.5 point favorite here. Total 48.5. I got nothing here. Anything?
I lean to the Cats. I mean, it was a covering effort against Texas. They were within 10 in the fourth quarter. The Longhorns failed to create an explosive drive. Could say more about Texas, or it says that, there's a healthy Kentucky defense in play here. Louisville has higher numbers in rush pass EPA than offensive finishing drives. There is an avenue here for Kentucky to win this game. I think the number's too high. I think it's Kentucky.
Yeah, I just don't know enough yet about this kid at quarterback. So that's what's making it tough. But I mean, it's hard to be worse than what Vandergrift was. So maybe it's an upgrade. I would lean Kentucky as well. Healthier defense. And they'll show up here. Huge rivalry game right in my backyard. Speaking of rivalry games, Florida at Florida State. Florida 14.5 point favorite. They've been rolling. Florida State's had nothing to play for all year, but now you play your rival. I assume they're going to get up for this.
If you're picking Florida State, this would be in the trash, right? I mean, come
No, no,
on.
no, I'm not. But having said that, so I think like Florida State will show up.
Mhm.
Is it good enough? I don't know. I can't get there. I'm not betting this team. I bet them one time all year, and it was against Duke, and that was, I mean, they should have covered. An absolute painful experience, and they held Duke to like 150 yards and didn't cover +4. Not doing it. Not betting Florida State, but Florida's getting pretty expensive here. But
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah, they are. I project the game at 15, so it's about where it should be, but I think it's just going to keep taking more steam. Why? Because Florida State's not covered a game since October 5th. 16 and a half point underdogs to Clemson. What was the final score? By 16. Like, I mean, Florida State's covered 2 games this year. So I like the over because your thinking was maybe Florida State tries to show up here, get some points up on the board. That does help the over. I like the Florida team total over. I won't mention the coach's name. Starting to pick up some steam and put some money back into my wallet here in the Wilson household. It's been a couple years coming that this coach made me some money. But if the Gators are going to run tempo here, and I think they're going to be adding at the end of the game, I think you need to be looking at Florida team total over more than you should at the side.
By the way, I didn't mention this with UTSA Army. Teams after playing Notre Dame and Army got beat up last week. 0-9
Yeah.
against the spread the week after.
Yep.
Cal at SMU. SMU, from a numbers perspective, I show value on Cal, especially if this gets to 14. But I haven't, so I was all set to play Cal, but I have an eerie feeling about this game, and it's not a great spot.
Mm-mm.
Cal, after that Stanford win, all of their comments that was like their season
Mendoza
was
was
bad.
crying on the field. Like Mendoza
Yeah.
was bawling.
And SMU, who runs, there's gonna be a lot of possessions in this game. They want margin. So they have a
Mhm.
shot at making it, even if they lose the ACC championship game. So probably a pass for me. I think you like SMU.
I do like SMU. I haven't made a decision whether I'm going to play it because I'm holding an ACC ticket. We just need this win. I think 13 and a half is the right number.
You already
Listen,
did play. You logged it on the app.
oh, I did. I did. That's right. I did. I can't ignore a couple things.
11 and a
I've got,
half.
I've got so much money on SMU this year. I can't even keep up with it. Um, there's a problem with Cal at the beginning of these games, the last couple games. They get way too far behind. They gave Stanford a 14-0 lead after the first quarter. They gave Syracuse a 27-7 first half lead a couple weeks ago. They cannot afford to get 2 possessions down to SMU, who, by the way, defensively is top 15 in defensive quality drives and defensive finishing drives. This feels like an SMU route to me because you're right. They need a huge gap in case they lose to Miami in the ACC championship game. They're going to need something to stand on for having 2 losses.
Big 12. I Let's start Baylor, Kansas. I've been driving the Kansas bus. I'm off it.
Oh,
I know. I can't do it here.
I
Uh
I think you're right. I even though I bet Kansas, I think you're right. I'll go ahead. What do you see?
yeah, I mean, we've just hit the very peak of the market. I mean, they've
Yep.
first of all, I know that they're going to show up because they to get bowl eligible, but like they just won three straight games against ranked opponents. Like, what do they have left in the tank emotionally, physically? And because of that, now everyone wants to bet them, and like they're laying points at Baylor. And what's going unnoticed is Baylor has been playing almost as well as Kansas
Yep.
for weeks now. And one of the keys to that is they found a running game with this freshman Bryson Washington. So I made this like, and I was higher than the world on Kansas, higher than the market every single week betting Kansas. And I don't like them this week. Like talk about inflation. Um, I I was super high on them. I had them power rated as the highest rated team in the Big 12. But all these teams in the Big 12 are like super close. So like to be favored at Baylor, I would love. I mean, this keeps going. I would love to get Baylor +3. So
Well, let
not
me
a bet yet, but I can't get there with Kansas this week. I want to root for them. So hopefully I don't have to bet Baylor because I want to bet them in a bowl game. But it's a tough spot after three straight ranked wins and everyone is just propping up Kansas, forgetting about how well Baylor's been playing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't think this. Yeah, so timeline for Colin, right? I hit Kansas +1 on the opener. Had a feeling that this would take a massive amount of steam because everybody's finally caught up. You're right. We're at the peak of the market for what the Jayhawks are. As you and I are recording here on Tuesday, we got Kansas -1.5 at a lot of books. I mean, on the road, laying 1.5 against a really good defense. Not really sure that's a good idea. So, what am I going to do with my Kansas +1? At 2.5 or 3, I'm absolutely turning around on Baylor, and I might even double that bet after I did a little bit of research getting ready for the podcast. When you look at Baylor, 11th defensively in rushing success rate, their line yards are 63rd. So when you see a discrepancy like that, it means the linebackers are just handling the rush better than the defensive line is. And that plays into what Kansas does and how Baylor is going to stop it. Kansas runs exclusive outside zone with Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels, meaning they use the tackles an extreme amount to try to get off that edge and go. When you look at Baylor against outside zone, electric, one of the best success rate margins against any other run concept of any team in FBS. Baylor's kind of mid success rate against all the other run concepts. They dominate outside zone, and that's all that Leipold and Kansas has been running. So, yes, I have Kansas +1. For those of you that don't have it, there is a buyback coming on with Baylor at some point. But Stuck's right. This is peak of the market, and everybody wants a piece of the Jayhawks. I'm waiting until we get closer to a field goal to get back on Baylor.
Kansas State at Iowa State. It's a huge game for Iowa State. This is one of my favorite weekends. For what it's worth, I'm always fully transparent. My worst weeks in the college football year, I just got to get better about
Week 1, it
week
sucks.
one. I got to get better about how to I'm not my best thing is in evaluating like the portal and the talent
Right.
player ratings. So I got to get better there. That's why I've just like cut my volume all the way down in college basketball for the first few weeks. Um, and then this weekend, historically, I always struggle. And then like our podcast always has historically done well, conference championship weekend, and then of course in the bowls.
Yep.
Um, but this weekend's always been a struggle for me. You're trying to gauge motivation, which is very difficult to do on this final weekend. But I love this weekend because you're also sweating so many win totals and futures. So like there's just you have action on so many different games from the whole season. This one is a big one for me because I have Iowa State futures. If they win, they go to the Big 12 championship game. Kansas, Iowa State 2.5 to 3-point favorite here. I think the line's about right. I mean, I have all these Big 12 teams right in the same neighborhood. These
Right.
teams at the top.
Yep.
So throw in home field. I'm at like 2.6, 2.7. And what do I think this comes down to? I think Kansas, like, I think this is gonna be a crazy game. Like, this is probably gonna come down to like it's just gonna be a nuts. Most Iowa State games are nuts, but this will come down to like the final possession, I think, because Kansas State's gonna be able to run the ball, and Iowa State's gonna be able to hit explosives through the air.
Mm-hmm.
Like matchup wise, Kansas State can't stop pass explosives. Iowa State's not going to be able to stop Kansas State on the ground. Like, it's going to be like a random turnover. How many of those explosives can Becht hit through the air?
Right.
Um, like this game's wild. So at 3, it's at 3 for me. It's Kansas State or nothing.
Yep.
At 2.5, it's past. I think the line is right. Should be a great game though.
Yeah, I grabbed 3 on Kansas State this morning. I believe that had a trickle down effect because it's gone. It's like 2.5 everywhere. I am going to live bet this game because I think the ultimate bet is the over. I make this game a pick. I expect that number to come down to a pick. I think you're going to be able to get both sides from a live betting standpoint. Why? Because I see advantages for both offenses. Kansas State is absolutely going to roll on the ground, and that comes to moving the chains and explosives. It should be all there for the Wildcats. You go to the other side of the ball. Rocco Becht just not been the version of his freshman self from last year. He's not going to have a pass rush in his grill here. Kansas State's outside the top 60 in EPA allowed. Rocco Becht's going to have time. He's going to have clear vision, and he's going to have a secondary that allows explosive passes. So I think the play here is the over, but I'm already invested in Kansas State, and I am definitely going to play Iowa State in the mid game. So we'll see if we can middle. I think
Don't hate that.
I think it's fun. We get locked into a pick, and I think sometimes we've done this over the years. Like I clearly, when you see a lot of points and a lot of explosives coming, if we just state it in the beginning, like, yeah, I have a position, but I'm absolutely trying to go live and middle. Like, it's not horrible to try to middle games. I just want to say that because like people are like, oh, you're coming back live. I'm like, yeah, because I mean, it's not it.
Sometimes you see something that you
Yeah,
didn't think about, and
pour
there's
a cocktail,
injuries. All kinds of things can change.
pour a cocktail, get locked in, and let's try to get a middle. This is that game for me.
I think BYU rolls Houston.
I do
For
too.
what? Yeah, I
I
mean,
do too. I mean,
especially if Iowa State loses. So
that's the problem, Stuck, is this game time being past 9 p.m. is like Arizona State and Iowa State. I believe if they both win, they're pretty much I mean, you're the one 250 different combinations of the Big 12, but there's a huge special teams advantage here. There's not going to be any contested catch issues for Retzloff.
Houston can't run it either, and that's how you go at BYU.
I think BYU rolls in this game.
I want to say, oh, another one. I can't. I don't think I can get there with Cincy, but Cincy's playing for bowl eligibility. TCU's one team in the Big 12 that can't get to the Big 12 title due to tiebreakers. Cincy's out the 3.5 point favorite.
Yeah, but since he's been trying to get bowl eligibility for like four straight
I
weeks,
know. I think
four
that they're
straight.
a corpse. I think they're dead. I don't know if they really want to go to a bowl.
You
So
want to
I don't
hear?
know if
You
I can
want to hear
get
a
there, but
stat? You want to hear a stat? Bryn
yeah,
Sorsby has not had a big time throw since week 5 against Texas Tech. Since week 5, he hasn't had a big time throw. What's
I don't
going
know
on?
what's going on with them. But like on the surface, it's like, all right, TCU's not playing for anything. They can't even get to, and it's going to be like 20 degrees. Like
Yep.
this TCU team in Cincy at night. I make it less than a fuel. It's like up to 3.5, but I don't know if I can get there. Cincy just might be a corpse. West Virginia at Texas Tech. I lean West Virginia, but they look bad last week. I mean, they keep getting these lucky wins. They got a lucky win versus Cincy. Last week they were like they outgained by 2 yards per play.
Yeah.
Um, but you do you like West Virginia here?
I do like West Virginia, but it's like surface stuff. It's like Texas Tech's blowing some smoke from a second order win total perspective. They're going to get knocked in their power rating after the season. West Virginia's got advantages on offense from a quality and finishing drives. But I
I
mean,
feel like Texas Tech always overperforms. This game
yeah,
will just come down to
yeah,
like fourth downs. It'll come down to like Texas Tech's fourth downs. But I don't mind taking the dog at 3.5 here.
right. I agree.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten. The battle for Paul Bunyan's axe, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin here. Uh, they look bad against Nebraska. One of those reasons is Hunter Wohler was out. Their defense is lost without him. I'm hearing he's good to go this week. That's massive. I think Pauling will be back as well at wide receiver. Chaney, their linebacker, did get hurt. Not sure if he's a go, but this is mainly a spot play. I've heard that Wisconsin does care about going to a bowl. Minnesota already locked in. Short week after that Penn State heartbreaker. This is a tough spot. Wohler being back for Wisconsin is just massive. I think they'll be able to run the ball a bit here. I like Wisconsin. I played money line. Look for the cheapest money line you can find.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that this will be number one, it's a lower scoring game. Number two, if for whatever reason Minnesota like ties it late, they'll probably not kick. They might just go for two in the win and end Wisconsin season. And I prefer a cheaper money line here for a number of reasons.
I can't get to this number. I can't get to 2.5 because I make it Wisconsin -1. So I need that injury information before I fire. So that's where we're at. I agree, Stuck, on everything, but I need that injury information to be positive to buy this number.
Apple Cup, Washington at Oregon. Uh, this is a weird game because Oregon has zero motivation
Yep.
other than the fact that they did get swept by Washington last week. But it was like it's a different team, different
Right. It's not
coaches,
Kalen
different.
DeBoer taking Dan Lanning out to the woodshed, right?
Yeah, so I
Twice in a season.
they have no motivation here. I guess I'd lean Washington, but I'm close to on the number. You got anything here?
I want the under pretty bad. I projected at 55. I expect Oregon with Big Ten championship game on deck to be, and they should run wild on this Washington defense. Can't pass on this Washington defense, and I don't expect them to try. And if they do, what's Dylan Gabriel going to have? An average depth of target at 4 yards. So I think this is a game where you're getting Second,
But do you even want to run James that
you're
much?
not going to run James. You're going to run the backups. Like I think this is an under game all the way. The problem is I
Who
projected at
aren't
50.
as effective as James. So I think Oregon will have success running, but not as
Right. Right. So
yeah. I don't
I'm
mind the
interested in
under.
the under here. The problem is I make it. I just need to get over my own damn numbers and just bet the under because I'm at 55.
Yeah, I don't mind the under here. Washington will miss like 3 field goals too. Um,
They owe
the
me.
old Oaken, what's that?
Wis- Washington owes me. They owe me some after some Friday night shenanigans this year.
That they do. Old Oaken bucket. The battle for the old Oaken bucket. Purdue at Indiana.
Name
This
the
line's
final
been
score. Name the
this
final
line's
score.
been flying. I mean, yeah, this is a beauty contest game. Indiana wants margin 28 and a half.
Does anybody look better on that runway in a beauty pageant than Kurt Signetti when he needs the when he needs to look good? I mean, I don't know. What number are you taking Purdue? Honestly. Like, I don't know if I would buy 38 and a half. I mean, really, what would you buy? What would you buy Purdue at?
Let's see. See for this week, it doesn't even the numbers. My numbers don't matter as much because I know that some of these teams want to run it up.
Mhm.
So I need like a bigger. I would need a bigger margin. Let's see what I project it. I make it.
I think I'm at 26, 25, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean I'm 25.4.
But you
But
wouldn't take
like
27 with Purdue.
no. I need like maybe I'd consider like 31 and a half. Um,
Well, let's just name our final margin here. I'm gonna go with 39 points. What's your do you want to put this as a head to head on the board? Because this would be fun.
now you say
I'll say
IU.
39. And don't you go fucking prices right me here and try to go like 38 and then take everything that goes underneath it here.
I'll say 31. So that's the good
That's a good one. That's a
margin
good.
away. Okay. Rutgers at Sparty. I like Michigan State first half.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's our script, right?
Sparty, first half money line, playing for a bowl. Going to come out fired up. Where's Rutgers at mentally after that game last week? What concerns me is that Michigan State's offense will probably go into the tank in the second half, and then you could throw on them. Anyone could throw on them to get back in the game. But I think Michigan State will have a great script. Not sure where Rutgers is at mentally. A bowl for Michigan State. They're one of the teams. These 5 and 6 teams, historically, if you bet them against teams that are uh, not 5 and 6, it has been profitable. Hasn't been as profitable lately. Market's starting to adjust to that, and there tends to be some inflation. I always take it on a case by case basis. Like, I don't know if I really want Cincy, but I know a bowl is really important to Jonathan Smith and this team at home against Rutgers after that deflating loss. Script team, Sparty, first half money line.
Not only do I agree with that, house cleaning note here. Futures, I have Sparty under 5.5. I have Rutgers over 6.5. So you can expect a big hedge of Michigan State winning this game to offset those two win totals. So just saying, when you see that in the app, it's for the futures, and I'll indicate that in the notes. Outside of what Stuck said about Michigan State being our favorite script team, to me, this is a first half over, second half under. Rutgers is also a script team, and their scoring differential is always best in second quarter. Michigan State's best scoring differential, second quarter. I think this is a first half over, and I think it's the most boring game in the history of college football in the second half. So if you want to run that script, I'm going first half over, second half under, and Michigan State to cover the first half.
Conference USA, Liberty at Sam Houston. Liberty's laying 3. Liberty might have started to figure some things out on offense the past couple weeks. Sam Houston State is not. Their offense is going in the opposite direction. The interesting thing about the Conference USA this weekend, so keep an eye on his status, is if Liberty wins, they clinch, and they would face Jacksonville State, who's hosting. Liberty plays Sam Houston State on Friday. Jacksonville State plays Western Kentucky on Saturday. If Liberty loses, then Western Kentucky can clinch by beating Jacksonville State, who's playing for nothing. And if Western Kentucky loses, then Sam Houston State would go. But they would need Jacksonville State, who's not really playing for anything, knowing that if they're going to play Western Kentucky again next week, if that makes sense, if they lose that game. So my advice with that, and it's going to be Hunter Watson injury dependent, I'm probably going to throw in a round robin, in some form of a round robin. Sam Houston State as a dog and Western Kentucky. Because then Western Kentucky knows that they can win to go to the conference title. There's some correlation there. Jacksonville State knows if they lose, they're going to play this team again. Why show anything? Um, so that's the deal with Conference USA. The MAC. Ohio wins, they go to the MAC championship game. Shocking. I was so wrong on them. Amazing what Tim Albin's done. You like them to lay the wood?
I do. I do. Yeah. I haven't, I don't think I've had a dime on Ball State in quite a while.
Coachless in Seattle. Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green. This is really sad. Uh, Last year, we won our Miami of Ohio future, even though Gabbert got hurt. This year, our Bowling Green future, it's in trouble
Mhm.
because, I mean, Miami of Ohio is really good. Harold Fannin might not play, which he's probably worth like two points to the spread. Um, and yeah, he's questionable. Game time decision, they say, but
Yeah. He's
tea
gonna
leaves suggest he
he,
might be out.
he
Uh,
he's gonna
yeah,
win the Mackey Award and hit the transfer portal, and they're not gonna make the damn championship game. It sucks. So I think if you're, if you have the 7-1 that BBOC has been sporting on Bowling Green, I think it's probably time to be thinking about Miami, Ohio right now.
I like the under, regardless. It's come down a bunch, but Howard Fennett got robbed though for Biletnikoff. The finalists are Hunter, McMillan, and Nash. Um,
You'd replace Tet though, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I like the under in Bowling Green. My vote. It's gonna be super conservative game. If Fannin doesn't play, how's Bowling Green moving the ball? Offensive line is gonna get on. The Miami of Ohio defense is peaking. They don't have the passing game on the outside without Fannin to take advantage of the Miami of Ohio's corners. One of their corners is the weak spot. And then on the other side, Miami of Ohio can't really run it consistently. That's how you beat this Bowling Green D. Bowling Green's pass defense is elite. Um, this game will be like 17-13. I like the under.
Yeah, I will say I agree. As you and I are podcasting the market, there's some 40 and a halves out there. 41 is actually a pretty big key number. So
And
if you,
yeah, 41 or better. That's the
yeah,
lowest I would go.
try to get 41, and it's worth paying minus 120.
Mountain West, the battle for the Fremont Cannon, Nevada at UNLV. UNLV in with a win. Anything there?
Other than a UNLV route and not exposing anything for Boise, UNLV really needs to work on their tackling. We'll see if they do. There's no way you can fade UNLV here.
Yeah, but I can't lay it at the current price.
Well,
Oregon State, Boise. God, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say with Nevada, with how good they are in the secondary, I would expect UNLV to be all rush here. So maybe potentially an under. Maybe it's cooking.
Oregon State at Boise. Genty probably goes bananas here, but they have bigger fish to fry. Although they can't lose this game because you got to stay ahead of like Tulane, and so maybe margin matters.
Well, if they want that bye in the college football playoff, right? Because they keep getting ahead of the Big 12 champion.
Yeah, I will say Oregon State did impress me by showing up and winning that game um, against Washington State. They put up 41 points, 500 yards of offense. That was out of nowhere. But Genty should go nuts here. 419 is a little rich though. Uh, Nothing for me there.
Yeah, nothing for me either. Pass.
Utah State at Colorado State. This game will be on Friday night. Colorado State needs to win. And if they lose this game, UNLV's already into the Mountain West Championship for what it's worth. Colorado State needs to win and then hope Nevada pulls off a stunner. I think you like something here.
Yeah, I have Colorado State minus 3.5. I think it should be 6.5. If the Rams want to have any chance in any kind of tiebreaker involved with UNLV, then they've got to have this game to make the Mountain West Championship. I think the pickings are slim to none, zero, but that is what Colorado State should be playing for. And I think it's still got numbered, has a chance to run.
SEC, Tennessee at Vandy. We're going Vandy, baby. Diego, Diego, Diego. Um, Not sold on this Tennessee team. Not sold on the offense. Javi is a double-digit dog. 3 years ago, plus 25.5 at Liberty, won by 35, plus 25.5 at Auburn, won by 21, plus 12.5 at Kentucky this year, won by 7, plus 23.5 versus Alabama, won by 5, plus 17.5 versus Missouri, lost by 3 in overtime, plus 13 versus Virginia Tech, won by 7, plus 17.5 versus Texas, lost by 3. 5-2 straight up as a double-digit dog, 7-0 against the spread, covering by 25 points per game. Vandy can hang here. SEC dogs. This is one of them. I make this like 8, 9. Give me plus 11 all day.
I I might be against you. I'm not yet.
Wow.
I
Head to
might.
head or no?
You know what? I think we should call it. I think I am going to be on Tennessee, so let's go ahead and call it. I'll probably get it in there at 10.5. I don't think it's going to drop anymore. But listen, the Vandy secondary is
I
not
think you
good.
should wait for that 10.
I I have a
It's
feeling
coming.
the second. Boy, you and I get in these head to heads. We cut the pod, we get off, and the damn thing dives. Um, Listen, Vandy's secondary numbers are really bad. Coverage, creating contested catches, not good, and their pass rush is 113th. And I think to take advantage of the Tennessee offensive line and get Nico to have all those problems he's had, you got to have some kind of pass rush. I mean,
Yet Vanderbilt is hung with everybody they played.
I know. It's such a service. You can't look at their numbers because they're such a service academy.
They're
But
going to shorten this game. All the pressure's on Tennessee. Um, I mean,
I
this
mean,
is a team that
I
they
have a
held
Tennessee
Auburn
to
to
not make the
7.
playoff. I don't want this to happen. I have Tennessee to not make the playoff. I don't want this to happen, but
This Vandy defense is underrated. They're well coached. I like their secondary is playing really well. I don't trust Nico in this offense right now. They just beat up like Tennessee. What
something.
have they done? They beat up Milrow in a game they were losing for most of it. Like
God, I don't want to be on this side of defending them. I really don't.
they beat UTEP, Mississippi State. They should have lost to Florida. I mean, they beat up Kentucky team by 10. They lost at Arkansas. They only put up 14. You want to talk about a struggling secondary? Tennessee only put up 14 in that game.
They look done. Heupel got schooled by Travis Williams. It was bad.
Vandy, baby. Diego. I can't believe in the final regular season game, maybe of his career, you're not going Vandy. Diego. Egg Bowl. Sad this isn't on Thanksgiving. This is on Friday. Ole Miss. Do they care? Do they want to put up a big number here? Do they quit? They're laying 26. Any thoughts?
Yeah, first, I have a full write up coming out on Action. Everybody, please go read it. First half under 31.5. I think we're going to see Ole Miss defense still be there, cause problems for Mississippi State, who, and I don't think the Ole Miss offense, Reese McIntyre, the center, getting pulled out of that game. Everybody's wondering, like, what happened to Ole Miss? Why did they suck? Because their center, Reese McIntyre, pulled from the game with injury. They slid their guard over, and that's when all the problems started. Reese McIntyre, probably not going to play this week. Injury was pretty bad. We'll see on this fake injury report that comes out from Lane, but I like first half under 31.5.
Let's talk some clean old-fashioned hate. Georgia Tech.
Oh,
Georgia 19.5 point favorite. I kind of lean Georgia Tech just because like Pavia, Brent Key is the underdog god, and Georgia Tech's a really good underdog. They'll try to shorten this game. They'll have a really good script with Brent Key. I mean, with Buster Faulkner on offense. And this Georgia offense is still just underwhelming to me. I think Georgia Tech will be able to run it a bit. The problem is like I don't like Georgia Tech's won the last 2 games telegraphing what they're going to do on offense. Like they bring in King, and then they're going to run it.
right.
And then, this kid Philo, if he's in there, they're going to throw it. Like Georgia has a really good defensive staff. Like I can't believe they beat Miami like that. So I lean Georgia Tech. I think I saw you play first half. I don't mind
I
that
did.
look because
Yeah.
the Bobo script has not been good,
Nope.
and the Faulkner script is usually good. And then
Mhm.
I think eventually Georgia will just figure out the shenanigans that Georgia Tech's doing and maybe pull away.
Yep.
But it's not like this Georgia passing attack is that scary to fully take advantage of the Georgia Tech secondary.
Okay. So, yeah, that was, I mean, full write up coming out at Action again. But yes, Georgia Tech plus 10.5 in the first half. And for all the bullet points that you just threw out there, listen, Georgia's terrible in the first quarter from a scoring differential, negative scoring differential for the Georgia Bulldogs in the first quarter. They cannot seem to get it figured out on either side of the ball in the scripted portion of the game. It's a little bit different story for Georgia Tech. It usually comes out in the first half pretty hot. And when you mentioned Philo, all-time leading passer in Georgia high school history, we know he has an arm. And if you notice what's happened the last 2 weeks, they brought him out there to do what? Show his arm. Well, he had to scramble to get into the end zone. He had a rushing TD a couple. Did you watch him? He
Yeah.
floats. Kid can run. I think Buster Faulkner's purposely tried to keep that off film. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Philo is just running wild in the first half here, and then Georgia's just scrambling to figure out how the hell to defend that. So I think there's an element of surprise. I think Buster Faulkner is the key ingredient here from a coaching perspective that gives Georgia Tech an advantage for a while until the Georgia defensive staff does their adjustments like they always do and just absolutely wreak havoc on opposing offenses. So Georgia Tech first half, maybe a Georgia live bet's going to come in sometime during the game, but I do like the Yellow Jackets early.
All right, it's time for some trash. Only two games here. Um, I like ULM +10, +9.5 is fine too against ULL. ULL is playing for to clinch a spot in the Sun Belt Championship. But for what it's worth, if Texas State beats South Alabama the day before, ULL will be in already, and they're playing for nothing. And their quarterback's already hurt. They have Fields in there, so they'll probably bench their quarterback, rest some other key starters. So there's some
Woolridge.
upside there.
Yeah. Woolridge.
And
Yep.
ULM's a team that really cares about going to a bowl. It'll be really important for that program. And they'll be able to run the ball with Hardy. That's all they can do, but you can run on ULL. And they're going to shorten this game. Their profile is a pretty good double-digit dog. And if Texas State wins, and Texas State's favored at South Alabama, this is the battle of the Bayou or the Wooden Boot, I believe. I like ULM.
100% agree. You can put it on the board. We are taking ULM together. I think I know everybody's going to be on vacation this weekend, but you're going to have to watch the board with that Texas State game. I believe if things pull the way ULM needs them to, that number will dip. If not, I think it stays stable.
Yeah.
I don't think Woolridge is coming
I
out.
like it at this price. I think you can still get a 10 out there.
Yeah.
But if Texas State wins, it'll drop, and I think there's upside
Yep.
to that result. And as of right now, Texas State is a favorite. The
Now
other trash,
you're on your own on this one. You can put it as I'm against you after you. I told my wife I wouldn't bet on any teams from the state of Oklahoma, and look what you did to me with the Cowboys. I'm against you. Go ahead. I'm
head
against
to
you.
head,
Head to
head to
head.
head.
Put it on. You owe me one here after making me play them last week. God damn
They
it.
were the right side. They gave up
98% post game win expectancy, and they couldn't even get close.
This line is outrageous at 17. Oklahoma State. I gotta take them. This kid, um, Maya Luwaki, I think, is Smith. Very difficult first name, easy last name to pronounce. He looked great. He actually gives what was he doing on the bench though? He gives their offense some juice, and then you can't load the box. Ollie Gordon should have a big day here.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado can't run. That's how you really beat this Oklahoma State defense. I also think from a spot perspective, what I saw last week, Oklahoma State's going to show up here. It's Colorado. Everyone shows up for Colorado. It's their last game. And Colorado's got to be deflated. Like they controlled their own destiny. It's a short week. A lot of times you see these teams, you think, oh, they're going to come out angry. And I think that like Deion's just they're going to try to force feed Hunter for his Heisman. That's not going to, that's not the most efficient way to run an offense. I think Oklahoma State, look, Colorado's going to score. Oklahoma State secondary is also terrible. Colorado's going to put up a ton of points. But
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma State can match them. I think Gordon can have success. I think this kid Smith can have success. They can throw the ball around a little bit. This number's outrageous. Give me the Pokes. We're going head to head there. All right. It's time to go. Nowhere fast. Air Force at San Diego State. What are we doing here?
We're going over, and we're taking Air Force. Although I think 3.5 is where you stop. 4 is pretty big for a service academy. No expected resistance against the triple. San Diego State is 130th in defensive stuff rate, 129th in line yards. Worse, they're 123rd in hard stops. You say, what is hard stops? That's the ability to tackle in space by your secondary. Not good for San Diego State. Air Force should be able to get to the second level and create extra yards. So I think they're going to score just fine. The question is, can San Diego State Can their offense create rush explosives against the Air Force D? Because Marquez Cooper's created 28 runs for at least 10 yards for the Aztecs. That inside zone that the Aztecs use against Air Force's front is going to have some success here. Put in some tempo, 24 seconds per play. San Diego State's going to be able to move the ball, get some scores up on the board. But, I mean, Air Force is winning this game. I do like the over here.
Yeah, Air Force trending way up. Would lean that way as well, but number kind of got away from me. All right, it's time for Colin talking Arkansas football.
Look, for all of you out
Please
there that
win this game and beat Eli. Please. Elia. Let me check updated number here. Arkansas. Ooh, it's down to 3.
there's been some service plays out there on Arkansas.
What do you
Yeah,
say?
so for all of you people out there that like to back Arkansas and trust these service release plays, Elijah Drinkwitz hates the University of Arkansas. Let me remind everybody that Drinkwitz grew up in Alma, just a stone's throw from campus down I-49. Drinkwitz was on the Springdale High School staff when Gus Malzahn was there. It was his Springdale 5 kids that got recruited by Houston Nutt and were soon jettisoned out the program, and Malzahn left the University of Arkansas, took a lateral move to Tulsa to be the OC. It was such a huge story in 2006 for everybody in the state of Arkansas, but it directly impacted Drinkwitz because it was his kids that were at the center of this. He hates the University of Arkansas. He hates the administration. He takes this rivalry serious. Arkansas has won this game just once since 2015. They've never been close in Columbia. Arkansas, right? And let's just get to the numbers. Taylon Green can't stop putting the ball on the damn ground. I already mentioned on this podcast who's fumbled more than anybody else in the nation. Arkansas, 25 times. Arkansas is 114th in havoc allowed. Missouri averages 1 forced fumble per game. They're going to get a freebie. There's just no offensive advantages for Arkansas here whatsoever, unless Taylon Green leaves the pocket. He has been, I don't want to say terrible, not as good as expected in running the RPO. He is not making the right decisions in the passing game. He's not taking the right lanes when he runs. When you go and look at what Missouri's done against mobile quarterbacks, Lenora Sellers, limited to 45 yards on 15 carries. Jackson Arnold, remember, he can run now all of a sudden, 17 carries for 45 yards. Milroe against Missouri's defense, remember that game was a blowout for Bama? He only had 11 carries for 50 yards. There's just major advantages here in third downs for Missouri. I get it. Everybody think that the Hogs are going to show up, but just keep in mind, Elijah Drinkwitz hates the University of Arkansas. Sam Pittman's already qualified for a bowl, and he's got hip surgery the next day. There's other shit to do for Arkansas, okay? Missouri.
Wow. Pass for me. Before we get out of here, let's go. 3-0. Can't believe, oh man, you're turning your back on your own state and university. All right.
It's because we turned our backs on our own damn product in state. Like, we treated the Springdale 5 like shit, and those were Drinkwitz's kids in high school. That was a terrible, terrible black eye in the history of the state of Arkansas. Burn the program down.
Give him the death penalty. Give him the death penalty. All right. Let's go 3-0. First down, Thursday Night Lights, Memphis at Tulane.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I wrote it up.
I mean, now this line keeps going up. But Tulane's a team that wants to get margin too. So I don't want to fade them. And
right.
I can't find how this Tulane team is legit. I can't catch up to how good they are.
Yep.
So, and they're going to want to add an extra score at the end. But at 14.5 now, it's Memphis or nothing for me. You like the total?
Over. Yeah, I wrote this up for action, guys. Everybody go out there and have a read, but we're going over in this game. Memphis won their last 2 games after whatever happened at UTSA. I don't know what happened, but when that flight came home from San Antonio, Ryan Silver-Sapilde said it was the quietest plane ride in history for his group. They turned around. They've won 2 games. I know it was Rice, but I mean, give Memphis some credit. They've kind of turned it around. But Memphis gives up a ton of explosives on the ground, and that is a really bad look against Tulane. Tulane runs man, outside zone. Mekhi Hughes is absolutely going to run crazy here. Memphis is bottom 15 in defensive rush EPA. I expect Tulane to get all the points that they want. Now, the question is can Tulane match them and get over this total? I think the answer is yes. Memphis has one of the highest rates nationally in first down passing. When you have Seth Hennigan at quarterback, you're going to throw on first down a lot. They do. Tulsa, Tulsa. Tulane struggles in defensive standard downs EPA. I couldn't believe it. They're 121st in early downs and giving up explosives. Memphis likes to chuck it downfield as early as they can in first downs. I think Memphis is going to get their field position. They're going to get their scoring chances. I definitely like the over here. I don't know if Tulane stops. Like, I don't see Tulane taking a knee. I don't see them backing off. And I don't see the explosive runs from Mekhi Hughes ever stopping in this game.
All right, so on second down, our favorite overdog, favorite. I'll start. I'm gonna go LSU -6. I think that this spread should be over a touchdown, and I'm really just playing the spot here. Oklahoma, enormous win, all out effort out of the bye, all in, got to bowl eligibility, beat Alabama with your limited offense that can't. I mean, what is this, 2 weeks in a row that they've thrown for like 60 total yards? Jackson Arnold, he's got to be beat up. He ran it close to 25, 30 times. Now you're going down to LSU. I just think this is a super flat spot. I like LSU.
Hey, it doesn't hurt to take a SEC team at home, right? I'm going to pivot and I'm going to take Miami. I think, from an overdog perspective, they're going to clinch. I mean, they're going to clinch their ACC with a victory here, but there's no weather concerns traveling up north because it's being played in the Carrier Dome, RCA Dome, whatever we're calling this thing. The question is, can Syracuse implement any havoc on Cam Ward? For the season, they rank 48th. They've only forced 7 fumbles this season. So that ingredient that you need to get Cam Ward to make mistakes, it's just not there for the Syracuse defense. Syracuse is outside the top 100 in coverage grading. They're 100th in creating contested catches. I think Cam Ward has a Heisman building performance. Not saying he's going to win it, but the avenue is there. Do you see Kyle McCord keeping up here? He's going to see pressure from that Miami D. A crowded pocket has been responsible for the fumbles that he's had this year. Huge special teams advantage for the Hurricanes. 12th in SP plus versus Syracuse at 103rd. So I'll take the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I make this close to 14. I wanted Syracuse. The problem is I don't trust Miami to lay double digits with them because their defense, who's going to throw a pick six first, Ward or McCord? These are two. Syracuse's third down offense has been amazing this year.
Right.
Miami's has been record setting. They're at like 58%. Which defense can get off the field on third down, or can any? I mean, I would lean over too in that game, but
Yeah.
from a pure numbers perspective, I actually lean Miami. I was shocked.
Yep.
Team that needs to win. I, and like a kind of a public team in the last weekend, and I'm showing value in the favorite, which is shocking. All right, let's go to third down, our underdog money line parlay. We hit this last week, the basketball parlay, Kansas and Duke. For what it's worth, we're 13 and 13 overall on these this year, plus 5.25 units between 2018 and 2023. We first started doing this in 2018, 72, 114, plus 12.65 units. So overall, close to about right about 18 units overall. Let's try to hit another one. I'll lead things off. UTSA, meet. Stop the run. Bad spot for Army. Beat up. UTSA's offense is peaking.
I might like yours better than mine. I got the shorter spread. I'm going to go Wake Forest, number that's coming down against Duke. We spoke a second order win total a lot on
Oh,
this.
is it? I wanted to bet it. Damn, is it coming down?
Yeah. Duke has been playing a little bit over their skis this year. 8 wins on the season, but it should be 6.8 per second order win total. Wake is playing for a 5th win, potential APR bowl. There's not that many spots left, but it is the motivation that they are playing with here. Duke's going to be facing their 3rd straight road game where it's senior day. So there's that added in there. But Duke offensively has lived solely on Malik Murphy pass explosives. I think I tweeted
Wake
out
does a good job taking them away.
They do a good job of that. I think one point I tweeted out Malik Murphy's 3 of 4 with 160 yards and 2 TDs. Why is that so important? Well, he decided to come off the field after that second bomb and flip the double birds up at his offensive coordinator who was up in the booth. Manny Diaz got to his press conference yesterday on Monday. He indicated first that, Malik Murphy had 3 interceptions. It should have been like 6. And we are internally disciplining him for throwing up the double birds to our offensive coordinator in the booth. He went on to say that offensive coordinator Jonathan Brewer told him, if you throw a post route for a touchdown, you can flip me off. Well, Murphy executed. Then he turned around and flew the double birds at his offensive coordinator. So there's no mention whether he's going to sit in this game or if he's going to be like out for the first quarter or first half. But the trickling in the line caught my eye immediately, and I think it's because of this. So we don't know what they're going to do with Malik Murphy, but the double birds did not sit well with Diaz whatsoever.
Yeah, sadly for Wake, there's too many teams that are going to end up with 6 wins. I think they have an outside
Yeah.
shot. Although Air Force is ahead of them if
Yes.
they get a fifth win.
Yeah.
I agree with you on Wake though. All right, so money line underdog parlay UTSA Wake Forest. Fourth down before we get out of here. It's the board review, transparency board, agree tab. We are. I always say tab like I'm on my computer. The agree section. We're 31 and 18 on the year, 63.3%. Texas A&M, UTSA, Sparty first half, ULM. Head to head, you got Indiana by 39. I have Indiana by 31. We'll see who's closer. You're going against Diego. I have Vandy. And you're going against Oak State. You have Colorado. Head to head, 4-4. Both have 4 wins on the year. And then trash, ULM and Oak State. Trash on the year, 19 and 9, 67.6%. Colin is 2-1. So overall, it's 21 and 10. Do you want to add Virginia? I saw you bet Virginia.
Is that trash worthy? I mean, Virginia Tech is missing everybody here. I mean, even Schlee's in rehab protocol, but if you want to throw it in there, I'll take them. I mean, Virginia Tech is it's not looking good down the stretch here. I'll take it if you think that's trash worthy.
Oh, UVA is after
All
what
right,
they
we'll
did to
do
me
it.
last week. All right, that'll do it for us. By the way, as a reminder, if you're interested in long shot bets, sort of couch change stuff, open the Action app, follow Parlay Express. A lot of fun. All of our experts long shots like college football round robins, they're all under one account. We will be back Monday morning with our recap episode, including the best of your voicemails. It's the last time you get to take shots. 959 Bad Beat. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Happy Thanksgiving again. Leave a 5-star review. Helps us out. Thanks to Colin for joining me. Thanks to our producer, Matt Mitchell, on the end. Thankful for both of them. Thankful for all of you. Thank you for tuning in as always. Good luck on all of your wagers. Let's close out the season strong and get ready for conference championship next weekend. Enjoy the holiday, everyone. Cheers.
Peace out.